again, we have another great fellow who had an amazing project that I've been honored to try to help a little bit with and mentor. We have Sara Al-Hassan from Khartoum. So Sara, I will ask you to share your screen, introduce yourself to everyone, and yeah, start telling us about your amazing project.
I will introduce myself. My name is Sara Al-Hassan from Khartoum, Sudan. I'm with a background in architecture and urban research from University of Khartoum. I'm currently working as urban researcher and a practitioner at the CCI Urban in Khartoum, Sudan. I am interested in urban development and currently exploring informality and power relation in urban spaces. Today, I will explore and share with you, discuss with you my project, the militarization and demilitarization of urban spaces and urban fabric. So looking at the title, you can guess or have a brief idea of what the project is about or what I'm about to say. I'm currently exploring the notion of militarization or militarism and its effect over public urban spaces in cities of the global south in general that have been governed by military government, and the possibilities and obstacles of establishing new cities and charter cities in such context. So if we looked at the military governance, or if we looked at the military aspect, it has an influence over the social aspect regarding violence and oppression in public spaces, for example, and it has also a political dimension which represents power relation. In addition, it's economic activities and government subsidies, all of which needs to have a geographical dimension to situate them. So military districts themselves need large, extensive areas for which their activities and strategic location for their defensive purposes and structures. Military districts need, therefore the project is exploring the militarization and urban governance and the development of the spaces in regard to development of urban spaces. However, it is very crucial to understand the notion of military urbanism. It was lately it was introduced by Stephen Graham. The military urbanism is a militarization of urban spaces. This can include the changes of built environments in military conflict areas or modifications of cityscapes to strengthen or subvert control by authorities. Military urbanism concerns the planning and implementation process by which areas are fortified and militarized. So in order to situate, in order to give a more context or structure to the notion, I will explain the project in my home country, as I explore in my home country, Sudan, and focusing in Khartoum, as Khartoum state, as a city military governed. So Sudan has witnessed a series of military coups. Sudan has witnessed a series of military coups and military power. It is important to connect the dots between the series of military coups and the socio-economic and the urban governance from the socio-economic planning perspective. Khartoum, as many cities, is rapidly growing, and rapid urbanization has a significant impact in economic activities and environmental status for cities, basically that has a colonial legacy. There are more hazards to the urban development facing this urbanization. So military urbanism links between the different dimensions as said. For instance, military districts among densely populated areas create the hazards. It's also very significant to mention that the existing destruction of land use in Khartoum represents accumulated demand on the urban land and commodification of land and economic military owned spaces, which were assumed public, all of which further nurtured the military and the militarization of urbanisms. Also, when we're thinking about military and urban discourses, we should discuss the materiality and practices such as hostile architecture, fortification, and unsophisticated urban norms. There is very limited. There is a very limited data linking military and urban planning development. That's why we need to stress the need for research in such topics. However, there are very much data loads discussing militarism and obstacles of militarism as a obstacle of in development corridors. The research will use literature reviews, interviews for experts, citizens, and urban practitioners. We will also be using GIS mapping for military districts and power. Currently, we're exploring the militarization in Khartoum, Sudan, and in Egypt. And we will further explore the notion of militarism in different cities around the global south. So when we're talking about there is as I said earlier, there is very limited data. So when we're talking about the charter cities and new cities, we should question the opportunities and obstacles that facing the planning and governance of these cities, which in long term will increase possibilities in establishing charter cities in African and militarily governed countries. So the project will propose possible paths for urban development in cities in global south and the hierarchy of developing discourses. The project will further produce a series of publications, interviews, and library for it's a network for the notion of militarism in order to co-produce document around the notion of militarism. It's also important to stress the process of militarization do not constitute a simple break from the past, and therefore it does not constitute a break from the future unless it's intended and worked on. This is the general or the overall objective of the research. We will also be producing and developing an open blog based on literature and mapping of militarism. And as I said, it's now between Sudan and Egypt, and we're aiming to further expand. Yeah.
Great. Again, thank you so much, Sarah. I love this project because I always say that the biggest challenge for charter cities is always a political challenge. Like other things can come together fairly easier than the political situation, especially in countries that are already very kind of polarized on the political spectrum. So this is such a great project, and I know we had both of you and me, we had a lot of conversation on the possibilities of this project and where we can discover it. And also, I'm so fond of doing something in your own context because you're the one who's going to understand it more than anyone. My only question for you would be, you are thinking of exploring Egypt and Sudan. Of course, they're politically quite similar and also historically, so that would be, I think, easier for you. But what other maybe African states that you might consider exploring, and will you consider exploring things outside of the continent, and have you thought about that?
Yeah, I was actually doing a very little research, but it was a very rewarding one in Lebanon. It came out to be very fruitful in understanding different contexts than in the African continent. So that's why I said the global south, because I think the context of the global south is more relevant when we're talking about the African continent. Rather than talking about African continent. For example, East Africa and Africa can have very different differences between the world. But the plan is to study contexts that have differences and similarities in order to see if there is a path in militarism or military urbanism.
That is, it sounds like a great idea, and just really excited to see where this project goes. It's one of our favorite projects. I shouldn't say that, but it's a really important project. Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. And as I said in all the previous videos, guys, we're gonna link Sarah's information and also a snippet of her project in the CCI Fellowship publication down in the comments. So you can contact Sarah if you're interested in learning more about her projects or actually read it on the website. So thank you again so much, Sarah, for this.